Yo, what's going on, guys? And here to do a review, ostensibly a review of the rules for the Cup of Nations, but in the disguise of going through all the factions and kind of reviewing them. What do the rules change about them? How good are they? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? All of that. Now, of course, in theory, all the factions should be relatively similar in strength, but that's probably not going to be the case. Obviously, I think it's better than probably any Cup of Nations has been previously in terms of balance, but the cost of that obviously is more rules in general, and sort of a little less like faction identity. I would say, like, you know, if certain factions have things that are very strong about them, it's necessary in some cases to remove some of that strength to make them balanced. So let's go through all the factions that are available. We'll go through the rules. I'll have to like tab out and look at them, but yeah, we'll go through them and we'll see what exactly the factions are good for, what makes them fun to play, what makes them not fun to play, both as and against, and yeah, so let's go through it. So starting in alphabetical order, of course. We will start with Ardiaei, and I'm pretty sure the only rule for Ardiaei is that they can only bring 6 Illyrian Noble Hoplites and Illyrian Marines combined, so 6 total of those 2 units. They can bring 6 melee infantry though, which is nice. Of course, they have nice barbarian melee units for the Axis and the Celtics, but yeah, the Illyrian Marines and Noble Hoplite nerf is pretty significant for Ardiaei. It's not terrible, but it's significant. Like, usually those are the meat of your army. Like, I would say almost usually taking like 4 of each is pretty standard, and then like 4 axe warriors. So literally even sacrificing 2 melee infantry to bring the 4 marines is very, very, very standard. And maybe not in all cases, but pretty usual. But I mean, basically, what's the difference now? You basically toss 2 marines, you get 2 Celtic warriors, potentially 3 spears, but I think Celtics are more useful. And then you build the rest of your army around that, whether it's Pontus, Tarentines, Odrysian Kingdom. Yeah, not a lot of options for Ardiaei, but the strength of these hoplites, the marines. Of course, you can also go 3 and 3 if you want more javelins, but I think bring like a peltist or something is probably better. Like some peltist, some cav, some Tarentine, something like that. Whatever. You know, maybe you have to drop an axe for a Celtic or something, but yeah. So the major difference is just going to be working around the loss of the marine span, which, yeah, to be fair, was pretty strong. Like, they go into square, they just like don't die for like a million years. They come out of square, they just pepper you with javelins. They have 40 melee attack or 36, yeah, so pretty strong unit. But yeah, that's the only main nerf. So Ardiaei is going to look very, very similar. They still have the noble hoplites. They still have the Celts and the axe warriors like running in front of their hoplites to do some damage, where the hoplites can like cycle, all that good stuff. Slingers with 50% block chance, very annoying because they don't die really. So that's useful and they're cheap as fuck. But yeah, so pretty normal for Ardiaei. So now on to the next faction, Arevaci. And Arevaci is one of those factions that I usually don't think has any rule changes whatsoever. Let me go check real quick. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think they do, because they're not under the barbarian banner. That's for like real barbarians. These guys are Iberians, so they do not really have anything going on. So yeah, Ardiaei are obviously unchanged, but just for the sake of completeness, so the rules for them are going to be 5 melee infantry, 5 same, 12 or 11 infantry, regular total infantry, yeah, 11 total infantry, and then the 7 rule about combined slingers and javcav. But that's not a huge deal because I don't think, like, yeah, the Cantabri and Cav are sort of dubious in their use in general. I'm not sure you really see that many Cantabri and Cav, more than 2, almost never more than 2, and then you can still bring 5 slingers, which is a massive amount. Arevaci also is going to be benefited by the fact that they can spam 5 Celtic-Iberian Cav, which is a huge bonus. I think this is actually one of the better rules that we devised, was basically a sneaky rule against heavy horse, because heavy horse costs exactly 700, so you cannot spam 5 heavy horse, so that's a big thing. So Arevaci can go potentially 6 cav, and these cav are quite good for the cost. Same with the Lusitani, can bring 5, and even Nervii can bring 5 mighty horses. They cost 680, but Arverni will not be able to bring 5 heavy horse, which is a huge advantage really to able to bring 5 mid-tier cav. And of course, they can also bring like 5 painted warriors, 5 Scutarii, whatever. Don't really think. Yeah, I mean that's potentially good. Like 5 painted warriors could be nice, as well as 5 Iberian slingers if you want to go that route. For example, like if you want to go for better infantry, like 2 noble fighters or something, 3 painted warriors, let's say. You go for 5 slingers, you bring 5 cav, maybe not 5 cav, but actually yeah, because you have 10, well, close, only off about just bring 1 Scutarii, obviously. So something like this, right, where you bring 6 cav, or potentially like this could go down to 5 cav and you bring another Scutarii spear, normal stuff there. But then you can bring elite infantry, and you can bring still 5 slingers, which can be very, very annoying potential in the kite game. 5 or 6 cav, always possible. So yeah, a nice faction, quite good balance. You have the elite infantry if you want to bring that. I like the painted warriors. I wish they had some bonus versus infantry, but it's fine. Their cavalry is one of the best for the cost for non-eastern basically. And you have good slinger potential, cheap infantry, cheap spears, good spears. Scutarii spears are actually in con rules one of the best spear units because they beat. I'm pretty sure. Let's check this. Just a quick side note on Armenia. Let's see if they beat the spear warriors. So 24, 26, 15, 24, 26. That's not good. 15, 18, 58, 60. 18, 58. Oh, actually trash. What am I talking about? Health 50, 45. Okay, so they're better. It's probably pretty close, but yeah, I think they actually lose to the Spear Warriors, which is kind of unfortunate. But okay, they're one of the best spears anyway, because they will trash units like Galatian spears, the Getae spears, Nervii spears, like Spear Brothers, all have no chance pretty much against Scutarii spears, and so you're going to have a spear advantage there for only 500, which is nice. Yeah, maybe they don't bring Spear Warriors though, unfortunately. So yeah, not much to say about Arevaci. They are pretty much normal, straight up in these rules, but they do get the 5 same benefit across the board. Armenia next is a faction that's both limited and buffed in pretty unique ways. So they have the general cataphract ban of max 3 cataphracts, but you can bring Persian calves with Armenia, which is something pretty unique. For example, Parthia doesn't have that option, but of course you can also bring Cappadocians, and the thing with Armenia is they are limited to max 5 units that cost over, cavalry units that cost over 700, because literally every single cavalry unit they have costs over 700. So yeah, not like you have a lot of options there. So you can bring 5 cav basically, plus source archers. So whether you choose to go Persian cav, maybe it's not a good idea, but depends. If you're going to go for a full kite kind of strat, Persian cav might be better. Generally, I think it'll be Cappadocians, maybe Noble Blood, filling up the ranks. Then so 3 cataphracts max, of course, so you can't bring the normal of this, but actually for Armenia, I think this is actually more of a standard army. And then they are limited, I believe, to 6, let's see, yeah, 6 horse archers plus slingers, so that's like you go 2 horse archers and 4 slingers, or maybe you go for like noble horse archers and like 4 slingers. More of a kite heavy approach this would be. And then you can bring like some axes and stuff. But the good thing for Armenia is, let me make sure this is true. Yes, it is true. They can bring extra hillmen. So let's say we don't have this kind of army, we have a more standard army like this. We can take, let's say we have 6 infantry, or I think 5 is probably, yes, 5. Yeah, so we have, let's say, 5 infantry. We can also take 3 hillmen, so that's 8 melee infantry, but 3 of them are hillmen. So that could potentially be very nice. Yeah, basically, you are going to have a better infantry force, and these hillmen will be very nice because they will be able to defeat potentially like Levy Freeman or other frontline units, allow your cataphracts to get better charges, all that sort of thing. So potentially nice. You could also bring 5 hillmen, right? You could take 3 Carthage and 5 hillmen, even though that doesn't really seem necessary. Yeah, maybe like this. 4 and 4. Again, going up to 8 melee infantry because you can only bring 6 that are over 330, I think it is, but the hillmen aren't, so you can do that, and then you can take like an eastern spearman or something. So yeah, nice options there with the hillmen. So your infantry force is actually going to be pretty strong. I mean, the cavalry is limited, but it's very strong. It's actually the strongest cavalry force you can get, I'm pretty sure, because you can bring the 2 Cappadocians, so very nice. And quite useful. And of course, you can bring 3 horse archers max, so you can bring 3 and 3, you can bring 4 and 2, you could bring like 1 horse archer or a javcat or something, if that's what you want to do. So yeah, Armenia, interesting. They have this unique thing about the 5 cav instead of 4 over 700, so they can bring a very strong cav force, and the hillman thing is nice, but the cavalry options are pretty limited, and the kiting is pretty limited as well. Next up, Arverni. Yeah, gonna be just very typical for barbarians. They can bring only, let's see, 4 of the same unit. Yeah, 4 same unit max. So they can't spam mid-tiers. They can't spam, well, they can't spam heavy horse because of the 700 rule, so that's nice. But yeah, so maybe a typical army would take advantage of like 1 oath sword and 4, and then like 4 slingers, some spears, something like this. And of course, another thing is that their levy freemen cannot use the Peeland fire will has to be turned off. So yeah, that's gonna be interesting. And they just have to decide, like again, 11 infantry max, 5 melee infantry max. So yeah, they have to decide how to spend on their spears and on their cav. But I think this will be very, very typical army composition here, where you max out your spears and your infantry. Maybe you do something a little different with the spear composition, like chosen spears or something. Let's see. Yeah, you can't do that, but you can do like chosen spears with 4 levy freemen instead, or 3 spear warriors and 3 levy freemen. Again, levy freemen going to be way less useful without the javelin, so you might have to deal with that. But yeah, Arverni, pretty standard barbarian stuff, so not much to really talk about there. Next up, Athens. And Athens is one of the most unique factions because they're generally so trash, so they had to get a lot of buffs. And the main buff for them is that they can take 7 melee infantry, no holds barred, so you can take like 5 thorax and 2 Thracians, because they can take 5 things. I think you can even take 6 things. Let's see. No, I don't think we gave them that. Yeah, that actually makes more sense. Yeah, so 7 melee infantry, they can take 5 and 2, or they can take like 4 and 3, which is probably more standard, but maybe it depends on the enemy faction. That's pretty much the only thing that's pretty unique. Of course, it's a very strong buff, because 7 melee infantry like this is quite powerful. They obviously have the ability to take Thurios, they can take pikes, so they have a lot of options in that department. Good archer and missile force in general. Epirus Lancer is always an option. And they have Tarentine's, one of the best Javcav in the game, with 7 total missiles that you can bring. So you can bring 3 Tarentines and 4 slingers, maybe a mix of Rhodians, or 2 Tarentines and 5 slingers, whatever. Yeah, and of course they have very good spears. Spears, you know, kind of get lost in the shuffle, but veteran hoplites and thorax hoplites are some of the best hoplite units. And they're actually still worth taking in some cases. Like, they will actually do pretty well. Very tanky, good morale, 65 morale, a lot of health, a lot of armor. They take a while to kill, and they will kill stuff. Especially the veteran hoplites are quite good. So, yep, just a bit expensive. You have to work out your melee line, like how much are you willing to spend there. Because if you go with like something like this, you're spending a lot of money. You still need to get cav, you still need to get this, but you know, look, it can easily work. There's just a sample. With good cavalry with a Epirus Lancer gen, good slinging force, 5 slingers, 6 mainline infantry, if we can call it that, with the veteran hoplites, and 3 support in the Thracian warriors, 2 Tarentines, nice citizen cav, melee support. So yeah, this could be good, and of course, actually, we can almost upgrade to another thorax sword or something. If I like went to a thorax hoplite here, get a thorax sword. So yeah, a lot of options there. And so Athens will be pretty strong because their melee line will just be incredibly solid. That's the main thing. So, yep, that's nice. Of course, also peltists could be brought, like Thracians. Next up, Baktria, and Baktria actually one of my sleeper picks as a very, very strong faction because they have the options and the diversity to get things done. So let's see, yes, they can bring 7 total kiting units, so they can bring 3 horse archers and 4 slingers, which is something that a lot of the other eastern factions cannot do, and that's going to be very, very powerful because they have the cheap horse archers, the Scythians with 40 damage, and the eastern slingers. No other faction that has that combination can bring 7. Colchis can bring 7, but they have the regular horse archers, not the Scythians. So that's a big advantage. They have good shock cav. There might be a way to work Hellenic Cataphracts into the mix. Very strong. But yeah, I think the main thing will be coming from like 5 slinger, 2 horse archer type of thing. Or 3 and 4. You can bring general. You can also bring, like Armenia could, 3 extra Bactrian helmets. You can get, like in theory, like 5 thorax swords and 3 hillmen, but probably more likely is 4 and 4 with, of course, the all-powerful Bactrian noble horse spam. So something like this, and I have tons of money left here, so I can work around with that. But this is, the potential for kiting is super high for Baktria because they're going to have good melee infantry, well, a lot of it, and, you know, solid enough. Very, very strong melee cav, very good missile forces, and very large in quantity in missile forces. They can also take different things, like they could take Bactrian horse archers, a very unique unit, because it's decent enough in melee. It has medium mass, so it will do damage on impact damage, but also, you know, it's faster than like a noble horse archer and stuff, so that's an option. Like, for example, yeah, you could take 1 Bactrian horse archer to help you in the late game, or something. But yeah, a lot of options here, have a lot of money left over. Again, I try to find a way to work Hellenic Cataphracts into the mix. I wish it was a general option. If it was a general option, that would be like so good for Baktria, because that unit, you just keep it in reserve, and in the late game it will win against depleted infantry. So yeah, especially with the kite potential. But Baktria looking very strong. This army that I've just run up here is very good, but there must be a way to increase the power by getting a Hellenic Cataphract in there. Like, if you could do, yeah, something like this, honestly. To get 2 shock cav units, very nice for a kite. Let's see. I'm trying to determine how this could go. Maybe we just sack, yeah, actually this is perfect. There you go. You get a Thurio Spear because it can support against cav. You have your 3 thorax swords and 4 hillmen to just like slow down the enemy while you kite. And that's looking very solid, so don't underestimate the power of Baktria, so could be very good. Again, 8 melee infantry, 7 combined missile units, that's their main power. Oh, I forgot one thing though. This type of spam is not necessarily possible because there is still a max 4 units over 700, so you'd have to go 1 less Bactrian noble horse, which is not necessarily a problem, and go for a citizen cav. But this is the other thing that Baktria does well. They have cavalry for under 700. Now Parthia does it better with Median cav, but still, citizen cav, 1 citizen cav is not a huge problem, so this actually could be upgraded back to a thorax sword. And yeah, you'd still have good potential here. Not sure where you're going to upgrade, really. Like this to a... Do they have Persian hoplites? They don't. It could be a pike. Yeah, maybe it would be a pike. Something like that. Not exactly sure how you want to do it, but yeah, don't forget the 4 same over 700 rule. So that's important. And of course, you don't have to go for Bactrian, for Hellenic Cataphract. Maybe you go for this, and now you go for like 2 Bactrian horse archers or something, and a slinger, right? And go for 5, and that's still very potent because your Bactrian horse archers can be used in the late game. Just don't let them die. But yeah, nice faction there for Baktria. Next, Boii is banned, so I don't have to worry about that. Carthage. Now, Carthage is one of the factions that remains almost identical to the previous Cup of Nations. I had them in the previous Cup of Nations. Very versatile faction with key weaknesses, pretty obvious ones. The good thing is you get the Noble Cav Gen, you get 6 melee infantry units, so that's very useful because you get like the 3 and 3, or you go for like a spam like this. Late Libyan hoplites are great. Both Libyan hoplites, late Libyan hoplites especially with the plus 25 armor, only costing you 30 more. It's one of the best bargains in the game. You get 4 of late Libyan hoplites as your front line. The problem is you don't have a lot of javelin power, and that's a huge issue for for Carthage, but overall very useful. If you go for like a cheaper infantry corps, you go for some Balearics and stuff. The other problem for Carthage is no cheap missile units whatsoever, so you have to invest in Balearics and Cretans, and you have to use them very well every game, but it's, you know, very powerful unit Balearics. So yeah, you'd like to have some cheap slingers in there, but unfortunately not the case. Cavalry-wise, again, you can spam Carthaginian Cav, you can spam, well, you can't spam Scutaria Cav, but you can go for like, you know, 3 and 2, you can get nothing costs over 700 except for companions and your noble cav gen, so that's totally fine. Numidian noble cavalry, also a very potent option, one that I brought frequently the last couple nations, and it's just such a good unit. So good. Armored Numidian's obviously a bit better because they cost so much less and do pretty much the same thing, but these guys are beasts and the most probably cost effective, well, not cost effective, but one of the most powerful cavalry units in the game, so if you use them right, they are absolutely deadly. Just gonna make sure there's no other rules for Carthage. No, not at all. So yeah, pretty standard stuff, very similar to the previous couple nations. Ability for them to full kite is pretty much prominent with like a companion, some, you know, some Carthaginian cav. Maybe you don't bring the noble Numidians if you bring a companion, but then you just go for like this Cretan spam. Again, 7 total melee infantry, so if you went for like 2 Numidians here, you could, but that's probably too much because Numidians are quite expensive, companions expensive, and your missile corps is going to be super expensive. And in this case, you'd have to go for like, I mean, not that this is even that bad, really. I guess we could go for some better infantry here, and then get, actually this is fine. But yeah, not sure how much utility you're going to get out of the Numidians, but yeah. Potential is there for pretty much every type of engagement for Carthage. They can go infantry heavy, they can go balanced, with like 3 Balearics, they can go full kite, they can go cavalry heavy with companions, noble cav, Numidian nobles, elephants potentially. So yeah, good options for Carthage. One of the most unchanged factions. Samaria is banned, so on to Colchis. Colchis might, to be honest, be a little underpowered, I'd say. Like, it might need a bit of a buff. Like, for example, 5 cavalry over 700 might be important, because they are going to have good balance. They can get the Hillmen up to 8, so you can have 5 Cartly and 3 Hillmen, something like that. Colchian Nobles, the best hoplite spear unit in the game for the cost. Very, very good unit. It beats all other similarly priced hoplites like Massilian hoplites and Cimmerian noble infantry, whatever. They are very, very good. 105 armor, nice health, nice morale, all that, expert charge defense. But where Colchis is going to strive to do well in is balance, so they can get 7 missile units combined, so 4 slingers, 3 horse archers, or 4 and 4, or sorry, 5 and 2, that's what I meant to say, 5 slingers, 2 horse archers. They can bring this strong infantry corps, but they can only bring 4 units over 700. So what are you going to do there? You're going to take 2 Epirus Lancers and 2 Noble Blood Cav, potentially a good idea. And then like a Citizen Cav if you want to go for 5 Cav, not necessarily terrible. Noble Blood Cav are very strong, Epirus Lancers can be good, but yeah, that's a bit of a weak spot. Or do you go for like 3 Noble Bloods, and then go for like some Colchian Nobles in there to support your infantry line. Carly Axemen are fine, Colchian Nobles are good, you can bring the extra Hillmen, 5 Slingers is powerful, so Colchis will be good on the kite, but it's a little weak, I would say, just because they don't have many mid-tier options. Like, Carly Axemen are on the expensive side, Colchian Nobles are on the expensive side. You can bring Hillmen, but they're on the cheap side. You don't want to bring Hoplites, and your Cav is pretty much expensive or trash with Citizens, so it's a bit up in the air, but good options for Colchis, I think, to kite, or potentially go infantry heavy like Colchian Noble and Carly Axemen spam. And plus 5 Carly Axemen and 3 Hillmen is quite a strong infantry force, backed up by good Noble Blood Cav and Eastern Slingers and stuff, so don't know exactly how good they'll be, but the buff that they have from the last couple nations where they were decent, or a couple of nations ago when Ryanair had them, is that they can now bring 5 Slingers, and 5 Slingers is a huge, powerful thing for Colchis, because Eastern Slingers are just that good, really. And they can also bring 5 Cartly, so they're not as dependent on the Colchian Nobles, which cost a bit much, and are way less cost effective than the Cartly Axemen, so okay, they have some options. Next, Epirus. Again, Epirus, one of the factions that is pretty much unchanged. If anything, they might be a little nerfed in some capacities and a little buffed in some capacities. Just making sure. Let's see. So yeah, they can bring 6 melee infantry and 12 infantry. That's another thing I forgot to say about Athens. Athens can take 13 infantry max, and all the Greek factions can take 12. That doesn't include the Eastern Greeks like Baktria. It does include Seleucids in Egypt, but it doesn't include Baktria. But it's not a huge deal. But yeah, so they can take 12 infantry. They can take 6 melee infantry, so again, the 3 Samnites, 3 Italian swords would be pretty popular there. They can bring 5 same, so they can bring 5 slingers. Again, one of the hindrances, though, is going to be the cav, so you can't spam the Thessalians, but you can bring 3 in a Hellenic Royal cav, and then you can bring support in Italian cav, which is a big upgrade over the citizen cav, so that's nice. Not a huge issue if you want to go for a cav spam type of kite approach. You can bring Tarentines, you can bring 7 missiles in total, so for example, there you go. 2 Rhodians, 3 slingers, or you could go for 5 regular slingers or 4 slingers and 1 Rhodian or something. If you have the 2 Tarentines, of course, and then, you know, whatever, you have some money left over, you bring a Miltia Hoplite or something, or a Peltist, I don't know. Doesn't really matter. But yeah, Epirus, again, they can also bring elephants, they can go cav heavy, they can go infantry, well, they can go like infantry plus pikes, so that's another option for them, is to go like 4 pikes. I think there are 4 pikes max in the rules, yeah. So they could go like, let's say 3 pikes for now, decent cav, get some shot cav out there, get some of this, and then go for like 5 slingers. Actually, I have a shit ton of money left over, so maybe even like a Royal Peltist, for example, could be an option. And yeah, just support with the pikes, 5 slingers, decent cav, all that kind of thing. So they have a lot of options. Aspis cav, always an interesting choice. One of my favorite cav units. But yeah, they can go pretty much any direction that they choose, and that's one of their benefits. The problem with Epirus will be mainly that they don't have, they can't really spam, right? They have 3 max Samnites, 3 max Italians, 4 pikes are max there, you know. They have good options here, good cavalry options, but yeah, infantry is a bit weak, and not really that spammable, but they have, I think, ways to counter that with the good shot cav and the good missile units, so nice. Galatia, also pretty much unchanged from like 2 couple of nations ago when all barbarians had 4 same. So yeah, they have 4 same. I think that's pretty much their only debuff is that, but they also have a max of 6 missile units total, including Jakov. So they can't really spam like some kind of kite army where you have like 5 here and then like 3 horse skirmishers or something, or even 2, right? That's too many. You have to pretty much limit your missiles, and the point of that rule is very simple, right? You have to go for either 3 Syrians and 3 Jakov, or 2 and like 4 missiles, let's say. But then you, as a general rule, Galatia's only bringing 3 cavalry, right? They're only bringing 3 cavalry. Now their horse skirmisher units or Galatian raiders potentially are limited, so it forces them to take spears, and their spears are a massive liability. Galatian noblemen, one of the shittiest expensive spear units in the game for barbarians, way less good than the spear nobles, and similar units to that. Cost effectively, they are absolute shit. Then they have, you know, Galatian spears are good because they can throw javelins, but their stats compared to other low to mid-tier spears are quite bad. They do cost less, but they really die easily to spear warriors. And of course, Levy Freeman can't throw javs, so that's another problem there. So you have to work around that, and it's not necessarily easy to do. So like, you can spam maybe like 5 Galatian spears or something and Levy free, but these guys are all trash, and you're really relying on the classic Galatian core of the Legionnaires, the Galatian sword, the Cappadocians, and your missile units to carry you. So it's one of those things where you have a small core of elite units and a lot of fodder, and you just have to work with that. But of course, Galatia will always be strong because the Legionnaires are one of the best units in the game. Cappadocians are the best cavalry unit in the game. Horse skirmishers for 390 are one of the most cost-effective Jakov. Galatian raiders are good for like a melee type of Jakov. And so yeah, they have options, but it's definitely limited, but they will look very similar in composition to other cons, I think, where they've done well, so, you know, maybe they'll be one of the strongest factions once again. It's just that they'll be relying on spears, and oh no, they can only bring 4 same, by the way, so you can't even spam 5 Galatian spears. So you'll have to really work with that. I'm not sure what the play even is, to be honest. Maybe something like this. But yeah, not a great option for Galatia at the spear department, and that's their main weakness. So let's move on to Getae. And Getae, let's see. I think there might be some special rules, but I'm not sure. No, no, I guess not. So Getae is an interesting faction because they don't have cheap slingers, but they have horse archers, and for a barbarian faction, that's obviously quite rare. They have good sword power in the elites, like noble swords are pretty good, no sword but they're cheaper, and they have axe warriors and falksmen, so no mid tiers, so you have to be very straightforward with your approach here, basically taking noble swords against 4 same and 5 melee infantry total, so you go for like 3 and 2, 3 noble swords, 2 axe warriors, so you get falksmen, but then what's the purpose of that? Your spears are good, armored spears, very solid, but no javelins, so you need to worry about that, but you can also bring Thracian peltis to kind of make up for that, and the good thing about Thracian peltis is they, for one, do not count against the missile total, and 2, they are good in melee, so they can count as a quasi-melee infantry unit, basically. Spear horse, yeah, pretty shitty. But you have good cavalry support in heavy spears, armored spears, falksmen potentially, Thracian peltis potentially, and of course horse archers. So gonna be dependent on that horse archer spam pretty much. Maybe 4 spear horse. The thing with Getae also is they can't bring a lot of cav. You could go for like a noble horseman gen, but that unit's kind of trash. It's a bit risky, but maybe it's good. But I think Getae will lie mainly powerful in their core of good supporting spear units. Spear warriors are actually quite good because now we remember Levy Freeman can't throw their jabs, so spear warriors and maybe even spears win against Levy Freeman. I'm pretty sure. At least the spear warriors definitely do. So you'll have a better front line of spears, and then you can potentially go for archers or peltis. That might be better. Peltis. But of course you have to worry about the enemy just shooting you with their slingers, but you also have horse archers, and factions like Arverni do not, and so that'll be a nice advantage. But yeah, looking at it though, Getae might need some help just because their infantry is in general worse, they don't have mid-tiers, and their cavalry is a big liability. So we'll see. If anything, the rule that would help them is maybe to go 5 same, or like 6 melee infantry actually might be the play. I could have sworn we had an idea for them, but maybe we didn't implement it. I'm looking now, but no, I don't see anything, so I'll have to talk to Sarah about that. Maybe it'll get changed before the start of the tournament. So, yeah. Weaknesses for Getae, infantry, no mid-tiers, cavalry, but support, one of the best in the game, in terms of their spears, their horse archers, and the peltis, and even the deviation heavy bows for 440 are an excellent choice. So yeah, moving on, Iceni. Iceni, pretty typical barbarian stuff for them. The main weakness is going to be the fact that they don't have good cav, right? They don't have good cav and they don't have jav cav. Other than that, they have very similar rules to other barbarians, 4 same, across the board. They also have a couple extra things that are good about them. They have the spear band, so it's a cheap spear that can throw javelins. They have, of course, chosen spear band, one a nice spear unit for the cost, very cost effective. And the other good thing is that they can bring 5 slingers, and that's really something that shouldn't be underestimated because the slingers for Iceni are the best mid-tier slinger in the game, where we count like Balearics and Rhodians as elite. Eastern slingers are actually worse, I'm pretty sure, than the Britain slingers. Unless the block chance of these Britain slingers isn't the same as the Eastern slingers, I'm fairly sure it's 50% for both, then the Britain slingers are easily better because they have an extra bit of armor, they do the same amount of damage, just a very good slinger, and you can spam it with 5. You can also bring, cav, decent cav with a no heroic fighter gen. Again, melee infantry is not weak, it's weaker only to Arverni pretty much, in terms of mid-tier and elites. Maybe cost, and of course Galatia, but other than that, like, it'll beat down Arevaci, Nervii, Getae, pretty much because of the ability to have mid-tiers that are quite good. So, yep, pretty normal for Iceni, except for the fact that they can bring the 5 Britain Slingers, which I highly recommend for a general Britain army. Chariot, probably a bad idea. Dogs, maybe, if the enemy has like horse archers and stuff that you want to deal with, but I think you're going to have to stick to the ability to bring Spearman, throwing javelins to defend your rear, and then just kind of go for like a semi-kite with the 5 slingers, get them alive in the end game. Your infantry will do a lot of damage, and then you're doing pretty well. Next up is Kush. Kush, pretty standard. I think they get, let's see, are they part of this? Yeah, they can bring cheaper melee infantry like Hillman, so you can bring 5, whatever, infantry, probably more disciples to be honest. Let's say you go for like something like this. Of course, Kush is a very cavalry, infantry dependent faction. You can also bring like 3 of these Kushite slave infantry, which have javelins. They're pretty shitty, but they, you know, more melee infantry is always better. Kushite rule guard, you can bring 5. You can bring 5 same as well. I don't know if you would really bring 5 of anything as Kush, to be honest, except for maybe 5 slingers. And then like, I don't know what infantry you're really bringing. Maybe pikes, maybe just like a mix of leopard warriors and Nubian spears, or you can go for like more epidemics and then 3 slave spearmen or 2 slave spearmen. But yeah, Kush will look pretty normal except for the fact that they'll get these 3 extra slave infantry. They could bring 5 slingers, or they can just go for the typical Kushite slave spearmen spam to defend with like, you know, very, very solid infantry, of course. But they're liable to get kited because their cavalry sucks, and their infantry is all weak to missiles. Well, epidemics are at least. Their slingers are bad, their infantry support is quite poor. I mean, these slave spearmen are nice because of the 80 range javelins, but they suck in melee. Slave infantry sucks in melee, all that. So, yeah, Kush will look very normal. I think there's not much more to really say. You can bring an elephant, maybe. But yeah, the only real difference is the ability to bring the slave infantry, or the Kushite slave infantry, or the regular slave infantry, but the Kushite slave infantry is like insanely much better. 40 armor to 5 and javelins is pretty much the main differences there. Alright, moving on, Lusitani. Lusitani, no changes, very much like Arvevaci. They will be able to bring 5 veteran shield warriors if you want. Well, no, you can't, actually, because you need to bring a Lusitani noble gen. So yeah, it's going to be 4 veteran shield warriors and a Lusitani noble, but you can bring 5 of the same unit. So if you want to bring like 5 Iberian slingers, 5 Scutarii cav, very useful for Lusitani to be able to bring 5 Scutarii cav. Also, they can bring like some Scutarii spears, maybe Balearic slingers or something, or they can go with a Cantabrian cav or 2. They're going to be interesting because they're going to rely on their slingers heavily because veteran shield warriors and Lusitani nobles are great in melee, but they are so weak to missiles that you'll need a strong missile force to counter the enemy missile force. They can bring 7 missiles total, as usual, so you can bring 7 slingers, or you can bring like 2 Cantabrians and 5 slingers, whatever, doesn't really matter. But, yeah, gonna have strong missiles, 5 Scutarii cav, not terrible really, and 5 of them is pretty good. Good support with Scutarii spears and very strong melee infantry, but really it's going to be about the missile war. They might struggle against Jav cav, although then you're just forced to bring Cantabrians, I'm pretty sure. I mean, they can at least hold back enemy Jav cav, so, or enemy horse archers, so not bad. But yeah, they're going to look very standard. 5 melee infantry, 5 same. They don't have any nerfs or buffs, pretty much. Moving on, Macedon, pretty much just see Epirus. Same idea. 6 melee infantry because they're Greek. They can bring Thracians, of course, instead of Italian swords, basically the same thing. Thorax swords instead of Samnites. So Thracians a bit better than Italians, Thorax swords a bit worse than Samnites. Companion cav instead of Hellenic Royal cav, but they still have the Thessalian cav. Maybe there's a use for Sarissa cav. I don't see it because they're so light. And also Aspis, also Citizen cav. They have the Thracian cav instead of the Tarentines. If you want to go for a cheaper option there, they have the same missile options plus Thracian Peltis, so maybe there's some options there, but they're going to look very similar to Epirus. Numidia is interesting. Not bad for sure, and they don't have any nerfs or buffs, I'm pretty sure. The main thing for Numidia is that Peltis do not count against the missile cap, so if you want to go for, let's say, like some Armenian riders, you get like 5 Desert Legionnaires because you can. You get like 2 of these, or sorry, I guess you don't get any light infantry. You have 5 Legionnaires because 5 melee infantry max. They don't need 6 melee infantry at all, really, because they can go for like peltists as quasi infantry. They can get like some slingers, but they can also then bring armored Numidian cav. And so if we have like 3 armored Numidian cav to cap out the missile cav total, of course you want to bring as many of these guys as possible. You have some shock cav, that's useful in the late game. You have 4 slingers, 2 peltists, I mean, this is just, random army. You have good melee infantry with the 5 legion spam. You could also go for like a cohort, desert cohort, but they just cost too much for my money to go for them. But yeah, 5 legionnaires very solid. You have good anti-cav with the peltists, and then you have decent spears with like Vigiles, or maybe you get like 1 armored Numidian spear and some Vigiles probably. So yeah, you have good balance. You can also go for more heavy on the peltists, like a normal Numidian army, I'd say. If you go for the peltist spam, you don't go any slingers, you go full rush. You can go like 5 Vigiles, 5 Legionnaires. Vigiles are great in combo with the peltist because of square. Enemies that attack them, wrap around, peltist shoot them. 4 peltists, you get basically an extra 90 times 4, so 360 infantry soldiers that are quite capable in the late game. Resist fatigue, so they'll be fresh, probably. Shock cav, armored Numidian cav, they will look very, very similar to previous new videos, with the one benefit that you get the 5 same, so you can go straight 5 Desert Legionnaires, whereas in the last one, last couple of nations, Numidia pretty much had to go for either foreign and desert cohort, or like Numidian light infantry mix, but here they can just go for the 5 legions, and they will be quite solid. So, solid frontline, best draft cav in the game, best peltists in the game, and good support overall. I mean, you don't have to go for armored Numidian riders if you don't want to. You can go for armored desert cav for a more stable option. Peltist general is always an option as well to keep him a bit more safe and let your armored Numidian riders attack more. Get those engagements and save the armored Numidian cav for the late game. Alright, Getae, obviously no metric band. So Massilia, a very, very unique faction. I'm gonna check the rules on them real quick. Yeah, I think so. This is an interesting one, actually. They are not listed under the Greek category, so they only get 5 melee infantry. And the reason why is that the combo of Massilian hoplites plus melee infantry spam is quite strong for a Greek faction, because Massilian hoplites are one of those hoplites that are actually very good for the price. So you're going to get a very, very solid mainline, and then you'll have, Celtic Slinger spam, whatever, Tarentines in reserve. You could go for 5 same, so you can get, like 5 Axe Warriors potentially. Like, yeah, if you wanted to go for something a little more balanced, you could get like 5 Axe Warriors, 4 Massilian hoplites, and then like, 2 Epirus Lancers, you have the 2 Tarentines, and then something like this. I mean, obviously not exact, but the options are very much there. It might be necessary for them to go to 6 melee, though. It's a good question. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll ask about that too. But the good thing for Massilia is basically their balance is insane. Like, Massilian cav are so good for the price. They have the barbarian units, and they have the hoplites, which means your spear line is going to be better than almost anybody else's spear line, and in conjunction with the solid, cheap barbarian units, in terms of their melee, they're going to be very, very strong and potential. They can also, potentially dangerous. They can also bring 5 Celtic Slingers, so you can play around with that. There's also armies like 3 or 4 Epirus Lancers, a bit cheaper on the hoplites, something like that. So yeah, options all around. Maybe going for 3 Spears instead of Massilian hoplites, something like that. But yeah, options all around for Massilia, but again, maybe it might be a little weak. I'll have to see. Nabatea is another interesting faction. They have some buffs: 12 infantry, 6 melee, and 5 cavalry above 700. So, yeah, they can bring a bit more infantry spam, but it just opens the options in general. Nabatea Noble Cav, very, very good cavalry unit. It's up there with Noble Bloods, sort of. It's a little worse than Cappadocians and Baktria Noble Horse, but it's very in the same vein. It's a tanky melee cav, 15 bows versus large, good attack, good health, good armor. So it'll hold pretty well in any sort of melee. So you could go for like 5 of those if you wanted, and basically Nabatea's big thing is being able to just spam units. Like, spamming elite units and spamming cheap units. It's basically what Nabatea is all about. You can get 5 heavy archers, which is insane. You can get 5 slingers. I'm not sure what the block chance is on these slingers. I'm pretty sure it's not good, like Celtic slinger level. But 5 heavy archers. You can also, in the infantry corps, you can bring noble swords, who are like your only good sword unit. But you also have these axe warriors who are decent, so you can bring something like that. And then you have good options in the pike and spear department, because you have you know, the cheapest pikes, 400. Yeah, they're trash, but they're pikes, so they'll do exactly what you expect. 40 armor, pretty normal for a shitty pike, so it's not terrible. These armored desert hoplites are good. The caravan guard are like a Thurios type unit, so that's very nice. And then in the cavalry department, again, outside of your Nabatea and Noble Cav, I wouldn't recommend any other type of melee cav, but you also have the option for the Desert Heavy Lancers, so you can go Shock Cav, and they have 72 charge bonus. So yes, they're a very underutilized unit because like Saba has them and Saba has Cataphracts, but for 840, they're just like a better Thessalian, I'm pretty sure. Actually, let's do a comparison real quick. 44, 25, 10. 44, 25, 10. 67, so better melee attack for the Armored Desert Cav, or Armored Desert Lancers. 67, 15, 40. 67, so better charge, better melee defense, same armor, 95, 50. And better health on the Armored Desert Cav, but worse morale. But morale not a huge issue for a Shock Cav like that. So yeah, these guys are very, very strong. Definitely better than the Thessalians, pretty much better in every category except for morale, and the same weapon damage bonus versus large and armor. So yeah, very powerful. You can also go for Hellenic Desert Cataphracts, maybe not the best, but potentially an option there. But yeah, with 5 of the cavalry over 700, you can really go for some nice cav forces. Kiting is definitely a possibility. No Jav Cav. I mean, they can bring Camel Archers, but I wouldn't. So no Missile Cav. So you can go for like 5 archers, or like 4 archers and 3 slingers, or something crazy, and go for like some mad kite. Because you can also bring this plus Armored Desert Cav, for example, who are not great, but they will support a kite. And so you can kite with 3 Desert Lancers for the end game, 4 melee cav for the mid game to slow down. You have 4 elite archers, which these guys are identical to Syrians, so very hard to kill them. 40 armor, 35 damage, it's not terrible, obviously, it's not great. And then 3 slingers for the extra ammo. And you can bring some sort of solid main line. So kiting definitely possible, just the general spam. The pure spam will be insane of like cavalry with 5 good cav and armored desert cav, and then like potentially 7 missiles. Could also be like 5 slingers and 2 archers or something if you wanted to go cheaper. So there you go, 5 slingers and 2 archers, and then you can like upgrade to more noble swords or something. Almost, but yeah, you could probably figure that out. So yeah, they have potential on the spam department. The cavalry is very, very good for the price, so not bad. You can also bring like a Rakem Palace Guard and then like 5 heavy lancers or something. Just depends what you want to do, but I think, or noble sword gen, I guess is probably better. Yeah, much better in fact. But the Nabatea Noble Cav I think is the safest choice for Nabatea gen. Anyway, they are very, I think actually will be another faction that I'm really interested to see how they'll do. It's too bad they don't have like Eastern Slingers, for example. That would make them insanely powerful, or like 40 damage archers, but spam potential is definitely there. Next up, Nervii. Nervii just gonna look like typical Nervii. They can bring 5 Mighty Horse, which is nice. They can bring the Jav Cav and 4 Slingers. So yeah, I think they're gonna look very normal. Again, they don't have the option for good mid tiers really, because like Fierce Swords are kind of meh. I think the typical thing will be 3 Oaths, 3 Celtic, or 2 Celtics. Or potentially like 2 Oaths, 1 Fierce Sword and 2 Celtics, and then a mix of Spear units. That's close, but yeah. So yeah, I think Nervii will look very similar. The benefits for them are the fact they have Jav Cav, the fact they can bring 5 Mighty Horse. No, sorry, they have only 4 save. That's stupid. Actually, maybe it's not, because Mighty Horse are so similarly good to the Heavy Horse that might not be that relevant. because the fact is that they have Javcav and Arverni doesn't, and Oathsworn and Spearler, so yeah, maybe. The problem with these guys is they're light, which is kind of dumb. I don't know, maybe they should be able to bring 5 Mighty Horses. Might talk to Acer about that too. But okay, I mean, other than that, they will look very normal. Even if they can only bring 4, just go for a Noble Horse, Gen 4, and then you can bring like 2 Oathsworn and 3 Celtics, or a Fierce Sword, like I said, and then like 2 other free. So, options are definitely there. The Javcav is a huge, nice bonus for Nervii, but everything else is pretty standard Barbarian. Odrysian Kingdom, they're pretty unique. The main thing about them is they can bring 8 melee infantry of any type. Of course, they still have 5 same, I think. Yeah, they have 5 same, so you could bring like 5 nobles or something. But really, I think it'll be like, you can bring like 3 nobles and 5 Thracian warriors or something if you wanted. Obviously, their cav is very good. The Thracian Royal Cav and the Thracian Cav, the Jav Cav are very good. Thracian Horsemen, their melee cav are not so good. But Odrysian Kingdom is very weird because they're like super top heavy to like an insane degree. Their Thracian Royal Cav and Thracian Nobles are both insane. Veteran Hoplites are good, but then they have literally no elite missiles. Thracian Peltis, again, very good. Only cheap slingers, only shitty archers. No mid-tier spears, no mid-tier swords. And then they have, of course, Thracian warriors and Volks who can be good. So the problem with these guys will be finding the right balance. But getting 8 melee infantry is a huge buff. You can also get 5 slingers. You could go like 5 Thracian Peltis for some like mad rush army, like if you went. And again, Peltis not really counting against the melee cap. So this I'm envisioning something like really just like full rush here. Let's see, I'm like, I'm 40 short, 50 short. Oh, I can just go into Volks in here. Yeah, there you go. So, just like some mad rush army with 8 melee. It's going to be hard for anyone to stop that because they just don't have the melee capacity to hold you everywhere. You're going to have Thracian nobles running and you're going to have Thracian warriors against spears, potentially, right? Because you're 3 Thracian nobles and 3 Thracian warriors makes up the entire enemy, or even 2, right? It's mostly, that's 5 melee infantry, so that's going to be most factions' entire melee force. And now you have 3 of these guys fighting against nothing spears, basically, so they can probably overrun them pretty fast. And then you have 5 Thracian Peltis like running around the flank or something, and some shitty cav in reserve. Because you have so many Peltis, like, enemy cav is just gonna get fucking destroyed if they get near your shit, so yeah, potentially dangerous on the rush. But obvious weaknesses against missiles, obvious weaknesses in the mid-tier capacity and the cheap capacity. Their cheap units are trash, their elite units are insane, there's nothing in the middle. So, yeah, it's a very unique faction. Parthia, it's pretty much going to be like Armenia, except you don't have the 5 cav over 700, you only get 4, so 3 cataphracts max again. It's going to be something like this, with an old blood cav as your 4th over 700 cav, then maybe like some Median cav. 6 total missile units, so if you want to bring like 3 and 3, 4 archers or slingers and 2 horse archers, that's normal. The good thing again is that they get the Hillman buff and they get 5 same, so potentially they can go for 5 and 3 maybe, and then 10 short. But if you went for slingers, for example, it wouldn't be a problem. So yeah, they're gonna have actually solid infantry relative to normal Parthia. 8 melee infantry total is nice. Weaker on the kiting front because they can't bring 7 kite units, they can bring, or missile units, they can bring only 6, and then the 3 cataphracts and the 4 700 costs are going to limit their cavalry, but their cavalry is going to be very good. I assume we'll see a lot of camel cataphracts in this case because you don't have so many. You want to make it count, so the royal cataphract and the camel cataphract, or maybe even you'll see like some noble horse archer general, and 3 camel cataphracts potentially. Might actually be better. Let's see if I can. But of course it's more expensive, so you'll have to figure that out. Maybe it's like 4 and 4, right? Yeah, so there'll be options there for Parthia overall. It's going to be reliant on the camel cataphracts, it's going to be reliant on regular cataphracts and royal cataphracts, and it's going to be reliant on your infantry, which is pretty different from Parthia, but Parthian swords are actually pretty good. You also have Persian hoplites potentially as a cheap option to hold. Good slingers, good horse archers, good hillman support, because you can get extra. and really good melee cav. Even the Median cav as a unit that costs under 700 is one of the best sub 700 cost units. You can also go for like, if you want to kite fully, for example, like maybe like 2 noble horse archers and 4 slingers is an option, behind like 3 Parthian swords and 5 helmet. Even that's seeming like a bit expensive. Maybe it's because, oh, I have too many cannibal effects, that's why. Okay, something like this. Again, maybe still you have to deal with the costs here, so maybe you're going for like less Parthian swords, more of this, and then you get like a Median cav or something, or you go for like 2 Median cav here, close. But anyway, lots of options for Parthia. Elephant also a possibility. Kiting will be difficult for Parthia because of the 6 max. I think it'll be tough, but of course, Eastern Slingers in a quasi-kite situation where they just survive the late game is also powerful. Pergamon we banned because they're just whack. Pontus is going to be interesting. They have, let's see, they have no buffs, I think. No buffs, no debuffs. Or where's the... Yeah, they have 1 debuff. And it's the obvious one. They can only bring 6 kite units as well. But the power, obviously, of Pontus is, of course, they're still going to be limited in terms of over 800, 700 cost cav, so you're going to have to deal with that. Is it 2 Royal Cav and 2 Cappadocians? Is it 1 Royal Cav, 3 Cappadocians? But you can still bring Citizen Cav to make up the numbers. You can bring Horse Archers, you can bring Slingers, Pontic Peltis in reserve, Levy Pikes, and then, of course, you can bring only 5 infantry, so you're going to have to determine what's the best course of action there. Is it like a mix of nakeds? Of course, now you have a lot of extra money. You could go like some weird shit like 3 Royal Cav. But yeah, Pontus, again, a faction with tons of options. Or you do the other Pontus thing, which is like, I'm the only faction in the game that can bring elite pikes and make it work. Because bronze shields are so cheap. You could go for like 2 bronze shields and a regular pike. Something like this. You still have good missile power overall, and then you have 3 horse archers. So now you have an even stronger main line because you have these strong pikes that can really hold their own and actually do a lot of damage. Very strong cav overall. Pont is... Actually, it was Pontus? Yeah, no, yeah. I can only bring 4 cav over 700. So, balance is the name of the game for Pontus. They will have a lot of balance, but only 6, sorry, missile units total is a big detriment. And the cav and infantry is sort of suspect. Like, you have to find a way to make that work. Probably it'll be more Royal Cav, I feel like 2 and 2 Cappadocians, and then like 2 Citizen Cav is probably pretty good. Or you go like only 5 Cav total and more pikes, or you get some Thurio Spears in the action, some Peltis potentially. But yeah, a lot of options there. You can also go 4 Slingers and 2 Horse Archers, of course. But yeah, that's pretty nice. Egypt, I think they get 7 melee infantry, and they can also bring an extra Egyptian infantry to go up to 8, or you can bring like, yeah, you can bring 8 total melee infantry, but only 7 of them can be over 330, so the normal extra things like Hillmen, Egyptian infantry are so bad though, it's utterly ridiculous how bad they are, so there's that. But 7 melee infantry, again, Galatian Royal Guard plus Galatian Sword spam. Galatian Sword's a bit bad though, so maybe it's like 2 Galatian Royal Guard and like 5 Thorax Swords. You're going infantry heavy there. You can bring, of course, Levy Thurios or extra Egyptian infantry. Cheap pikes, also very nice. 50 armor on those guys, not bad at all. Good missile options, decent cav options. Ptolemaic cav gen, pretty standard. Maybe carrying Axeman gen for the saving the cost, but yeah, pretty normal stuff. They can bring again 5 the same, so they can go for 5 Thorax Swords, 5 Slingers, potentially 5 cav. Maybe 5 Thurio Spears in some rare occasions. I don't really know how that works. If you're going for like a rush, maybe no Slingers, you go for something like that. But yeah, Egypt has a lot of options. The ability to take 7 melee infantry is good. It allows the Galatian Royal Guard to get in there. Maybe you take a mix of Thorax Swords and Galatian Swords, or carrying Axemen to cheapen out your melee line, but allow you to get more support. Like, I don't know, something like this. Close, whatever, you can figure it out. But, you know, maybe this goes to an Egyptian infantry or something. Or 2 of them do. No, you can't do that. Only 1 could go. But yeah, a lot of options. Egypt will be a very diverse faction. I think the builds will depend a lot, again, on the enemy faction, so that should be interesting to see. But only buffs for them, because they are generally pretty weak. Rome, we're not even sure, but I'm assuming that the rules will be the ones that I suggested, which is that against barbarian factions, they have the same rules as barbarians, so 4 same, 5 melee infantry always for Rome, and yeah, the rules about 700 cav doesn't really apply to them because no one's going to take like 4 auxiliary cav or something, or 5 even. 4 same for Rome is not really ever a problem. So yeah, against barbarians, they have the same rules as barbarians, so it'll be Evocati, like 4 Evocati, 1 veteran legionnaire, some of this, some slinger spam, some vigilate spam, and then like, yeah, cab, maybe Numidians, maybe you just go for a lot of cav. Oleg style, I suppose. Get some Triarii in there. Yeah, something like this. But against Greek factions, and that's, I listed it in the rules I said, but it's like barbarians like includes Kush because of Kush's infantry power, but Greeks includes like some other factions like Carthage maybe. But just basically factions that don't have a lot of good melee infantry, then Rome can only bring 2 post-Marian units, and so that's going to be anything that has legionary in it, anything that has cohort in it, everything that has praetorian in it, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Syrians and Balearics do not count as pre-Marian, Vigilates do not count as pre-Marian. Gladiators might, I think gladiators count as pre-Marian, or as post-Marian, sorry. But yeah, auxiliary Syrians, auxiliary Balearics, Vigiles, and yeah, those units can be brought always, so that's nice. So without that, of course, you're going to be relying on Principes. And then you bring like 2 Evocati or something, and that's, or 3 Principes and 2 Evocati, and that's your main line. You still get to bring Getae, you still get to bring the missiles, but this will reduce the power of the main line of Rome, and against something like Athens, who has like 7 melee infantry, it could be a real problem, because Principes are good, but they're not that good. They will struggle to, this main line infantry will struggle to destroy like 8 or 9 main line infantry for Athens, where it's like 3 Thracians, 4 thorax swords, and like 2 or 3 hoplite units. So Rome will be at a problem there, but they can still bring good cav. They can bring the shot cav and socket Getaes or something to get a good cav force. They can go for missiles, and they can still bring the Vigile spam and like a Triarii or whatever as needed. So they'll still have good options there. And against Eastern factions, which is like anybody with Eastern slingers, pretty much. I think, yeah, again, I listed out all the factions. They have no debuffs whatsoever, because Rome actually struggles quite a bit against Eastern factions. So taking more Evocati cohort against Eastern factions is not going to save you. It will be helpful because you need your infantry to win, but you still have to deal with the cataphracts somehow. Rome struggles because they don't have many javelin units, and their cavalry is kind of trash. So yeah, they will still have issues against Eastern factions, so no debuffs are there, so that's just standard 4 same, or maybe it's even 5 same. I think it's 4 same though. It should be 4 same. 4 same, but no limits on post-Marian units, so you can bring Evocati basically, or veteran legionnaires for free. So that's Rome, so kind of split into 3 based on the enemy faction. Roxolani, of course, bans. Saba just has the 3 cataphract thing going. That's it. I think everything else is the same, so you'll see very similar Saba to normal. It's just like 3 cataphracts, and then you bring 2 desert heavy lancers. Or I guess you can only bring this because you need units that cost under. Actually, Saba should maybe get 5 units over 700 because they don't have armored desert cav. I forgot about that. And Arabian cav are trash because they have swords. And then you still get the same. You can get 5 Maskab Marauders if you want. You can get a mix of them and swords if you want to go cheaper. They have Caravan Guard, Sheep Slingers, Sheep Spears, something like that. So yeah, the normal Saba spam besides. Actually, I like going for at least 1 Marib Guard there. Maybe something like this, but yeah. We'll have to see, because this is actually, I think they need 5 cav over 700, so you can bring the 2 Desert Heavy Lancers. You can bring the 3 Cataphracts, of course, literally OP Cataphracts for the cost, OP Infantry for the cost, but no Horse Archers unless you go for the Royal Camel Archers, which cannot shoot backwards, so kind of a bad idea. Yeah, so Saba will look pretty similar. I think this should be changed to 5 the same, but maybe it's still too OP. I don't think so, though, because the heavy lancers aren't that special. It's just the 3 cataphracts that enemy factions will have to worry about. Their spear support is lackluster, except for the Marine Guard and Caravan Guard, kind of. But yeah, they'll be interesting. Next up, Scythia Band, Seleucids. Seleucids can bring extra hillmen. They can bring, you know, they don't have any cav over 700 except for the elite cav, so that's not really an issue. They can bring 5 in the same unit. They can bring 7 melee infantry, maybe? No, I think they can bring 6. Yeah, they can bring 6 melee infantry. But they just have great options with the Hellenic cataphracts. You can bring like 2 of them and like 3 of this shit, and then like some slingers, like 5 slingers. They also have Syrian archers if you want to go for that. And then they have, you know, they can bring like 4 thorax swords and 4, or even 5 and 3, and then like Tarentines or something. So a lot of good options for Seleucids. Hellenic cataphracts potentially very powerful in combination with good Median cav support. Good melee infantry spam ability, slinger spam ability, eastern slinger spam ability, always going to be powerful. So Seleucids, yeah, another faction that could be good. They don't have horse archers, but the Tarentines are quite good, obviously. Elephant spam ability, well, you can only bring 1, actually, so never mind. But you can bring the OP Syrian Armored Elephant for 1900, very good cost. Again, Hellenic Cataphract, the gen, bringing the Hellenic Cataphract as a gen is a very nice option to have, which, like, Baktria, for example, doesn't have. But yeah, Seleucids will just be kind of spammable. 6 melee infantry, so you can go for 6, or like 5 thorax swords and a elite infantry, like a royal cultist or a silver shield. So yeah, a lot of options there. We'll see how they do. I think they should be fine. No, I mean, just the ability to have all the slingers and infantry is powerful, and the cataphracts. Sparta is weird. They have, their main rule is that they can just spam, pretty much. They have no cap on the same unit thing, so, they can bring as many of any unit as they want, as long as it's within the rules. So, like, the other rules, that is, so, like, you can't bring more than 12 or infantry, I think, for Sparta. No, 13 infantry, so you can bring 13 infantry, you can bring, like, a royal, you can just, like, spam the living shit out of Spartan hoplites if you want. You can bring, like, 6 Gorgo skirmishers, and then, like, some cav. So, you know, potential's there. Gorgo skirmishers have the elite missile damage, or, like, not the elite, but the Eastern Slinger missile damage. Not the good armor, though, but they have fast shooting too, 8 shots per minute, so they're very useful. Spartan hoplites, good for a hoplite unit. You have good missile ability, potentially. You can bring, like, you can only bring 3 Tarentines because there are other rules governing that. The only rule that Sparta doesn't have is the same unit. But, yeah, of course they don't have any melee infantry, and that's why. So you can still bring only 4 pikes, but you can bring, like, yeah, basically you can just spam your spears however you want to bring your spears. That's okay. You can bring extra missile units, extra cav, like you can bring, like, 7 citizen cav or some shit if you wanted to. Yeah, so there's potential there with the Gorgos, with the Brodians potentially. Good slinger force, good missile force for Sparta. Just infantry will always be lacking, but, like, I think some combination of pikes, Spartans, and Royal Spartans will be sufficient, I think, with these weird, wacky rules to give Sparta some sort of hope. Don't really think they'll be one of the best factions, just so hard to balance a faction that doesn't have melee infantry. Suebi, I think they don't have anything special. They can bring, oh yeah, they can bring Club Levy as extra melee, so if you have, let's say, like, some sort of Suebi army here, you have, like, this, you have 3, so you have, you know, your regular 5 melee infantry, you can also bring 3 Club Levy, so that should increase the ability of Ariovistus to be even more powerful, because these Club Levy with Ariovistus with Pride are actually quite good. Of course, anything with Ariovistus is good. You have the OP Germanic Slingers. I think you can bring 5, maybe not. Let's see. No, you can't bring 5, so that's probably fair. So you can bring 4 of these guys. You have good Noble Rider Cav. Riders of the Hunt trash. You have good Scout Riders. You do it for cheap. And then you have elite, like, some of the best spear options in the game. Of course, Spear Levy can't throw javelins, but they still will beat Levy Freeman in a head-to-head. And you have Wood Naz Spears. Super good. So yeah, I mean, the only thing for Suebi is going to be the cav, of course, but something like this, for example. This should become a wolf warrior berserker, actually. I have tons of money, actually. But yeah, I mean, the options are obviously there for an Arevaci rush with the Javcav and the Slingers and the Wilderness Spears with 8 melee infantry. It could be powerful, could be hard to stop, but the problem for Suebi is always that it's very expected, and once Arevaci is over, like, can you sustain the momentum? It can be tough. Syracuse, 7 melee infantry, I think is the only thing for them. So you can go for something weird thing. Again, Sarah was talking to me about this, and it's kind of impractical to do something like this. It's just so telegraphed. But then you can go for, like, 5 same slingers, 2 Tarentines maybe, some Italian cav, and some Citizen cav maybe, or yeah, I have Tarentines already. So, like, I don't know if it's like this and Lush Hoplite or something. So you can have very strong infantry, decent cav, decent slinger support. Or do you want to be more balanced is the question. Go for less thorax swords, like 6 total melee infantry, and then get like some more Bolerics. It's an option. But yeah, it's good infantry for Syracuse. They also have companions, they have Italian cav, Tarentine, so good cavalry support, good slingers, not a lot of javelins, and their infantry is not great. Spears are not, obviously not that good, but you can get a lot of swords, so it's not terrible. We'll see with Syracuse, but they should be fine. Their armies will look pretty normal, I guess, just like good infantry spam. But outside of that, everything else is sort of like mid to low tier, like cavalry and regular slingers. Of course, Bolerics are pretty good. So yeah, Syracuse, and finally Tylis, which is allowed. Pretty obvious their problems. I mean, they have normal barbarian rules, so they can get 5 infantry, melee infantry, 4 same. The problem, obviously, for Tylis is what do you do about the spears, and what do you do about the cav? It's 2 very big problems, I would say. You can only bring noble horse pretty much, unless you want to bring light horse. You're maxed out at 3 raiding horse, so that's your cav force pretty much every game. Not 2 noble horse, it's fine, but now you have to work around the support somehow. So is it like this, and now your infantry slingers, it's okay. Is it great? No, not really. You're gonna be at a huge disadvantage against like 4 or 5 cav that can just crush your lines, but it's decent. It's normal barbarian shit, so they should probably be pretty decent, but I think they'll probably struggle a little bit more than a lot of other barbarians just because of the cav problems and the limited spears. You don't have any elite spears, so you can't go for like 2 chosen spears like Arverni can. But you do have Javcav, so that's nice. One of the better Javcav at that. Yep, so okay, that's every faction. Kind of went through them all. Hopefully that's also the rules. I don't think I missed anything in terms of the rules, but maybe I did. A few factions, I want to go back and check them. Anyway, yep, hopefully this is informative about the factions, how I feel about their strengths, their weaknesses, and yeah, looking through it just on reflection, I think it's going to be a very interesting couple of nations. I think a lot of factions have potential. Honestly, just looking through it again, like, looks like I think we did a very good job of balancing it. Now, will some things maybe be slightly off? Like, sure, that's very possible. But it's not like we can't fix it. Rules can still be changed a little bit. I have a couple ideas after doing this, in fact, so yeah, we'll see how it goes, and hopefully it turns out good. Hopefully this was informative and all that. Thanks for watching, and good luck in the con. Peace.